pledged that we would bring back American liberty and leadership and make the United States the crypto capital of the world, and that's what we've done. And under the Trump administration, this is only going further. You're going to do really well.
Back on November 5th, during the presidential election last year, Donald Trump won. He officially beat Kamala Harris, and since then, he has signed executive order after executive order, and he has not slowed down at all. Because if we look right now at Total 2's chart, which is the entire altcoin industry, we can see a key thing here on the 4-hour chart. Even zooming out on the daily chart right here, going back to 2021, where the high was at about $1.7 trillion. We came right back up to that high and we got rejected from it. So as you can see, we've knocked on this high one time and now 2 times. So the more that we knock on the high, which is the resistance, the weaker that it gets. And so with this pullback right here, we can see that we've just pulled back a little bit. So I don't think anything's out of the ordinary here. Now, we are in an uptrend, and an uptrend is very simple, a series of higher highs, higher high, higher high, higher low, higher low. And now wherever this low ends up being is just going to be an ultimate higher low. So in my opinion, this dip is not going to last, and the smartest buyers are going to act fast before the next major leg up in the market. And so there's not really any topping signals happening right now on Total 2's chart. If we go to others chart, I talked about this in a previous video on how we saw this rounded bottom formation and how we're not even close to the high of $450 billion, because as you can see, others is lagging behind. So we're still really in phase 2 leading to phase 3 of the bull run. And with others doing this, basically sitting at 286, coming back in contact of this rounded bottom right here, getting rejected from this resistance, which was support in between the A and the B phase right here. As you can see, when we saw this mark down, we saw A, B, and then we just hover on top of this zone as support right here for an extended period of time until we broke below it, and then we come all the way down here for the C wave. And this has respected this rounded bottom formation ever since the A wave pretty much. And so we're coming back into this zone right here as resistance for others. We got rejected from it, and we got rejected from it another time. So we're at a very pivotal moment. This is a make or break moment for the others chart on top of Total 2, where if the bottom is in for Total 2 and we see a bounce, I would expect others to bounce as well too. And this would come at a very coincidental timing for us to break back out to retest the B wave or pretty much the high of December 2024. And there's going to be certain altcoins that are going to absolutely rip if this were to happen. So in no particular order, I guess let's just talk about Ethereum first, because Ethereum actually broke out from its high that it was at ever since March of 2024. And it got rejected from the all-time high back in 2021. So whereas Bitcoin is all the way above, if we go to Bitcoin's price chart, as you can see on the daily chart, Bitcoin's all-time high back here in 2021. Look at how much further Bitcoin is above its previous all-time high, about 66%. At the true all-time high now is 81%. Whereas if we go back to Ethereum's price chart, Ethereum is below its all-time high. So I think Ethereum has a lot of catching up to do, and I think Ethereum is going to go upwards of $6,000 to potentially, we don't know how high it'll go, maybe $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. We'll see what Ethereum will do by the end of this year, but nonetheless, Ethereum has had a major run. So I think we need to focus on the projects that have remained strong during this recent breakout in the market since really June of 2025, when Total 2 went from 1 trillion all the way upwards of $1.7 trillion. So Ethereum is definitely one of those projects, because as you can see, Ethereum broke out from $2,100 and did over a 2x since then. And so this pullback is completely normal. I mean, once we see these rapid rallies, we'll see aggressive pullbacks, generally back down to 50 on the relative strength index during a bull trend. So what we'll see happen here is when the price starts to break out, the relative strength index, rallies from a low point close to 30 or below 30. As you can see, when Ethereum pulled back here to $2,100, the RSI was at 33, and we broke all the way upwards of 80. So we go to 87, and then we consolidate for a little bit. What happens to the RSI? Well, it pulls back to 50, and we break out again even higher. We form a bearish divergence, which is simply a lower high on the relative strength index, and the price chart forms a higher high, which is a reversal signal. Sure enough, we see a reversal for Ethereum's price chart. So the RSI is at 54 right now. We could go a little bit lower, and we don't have to come exactly to 50 on the relative strength index. It's relative. Where we spend the majority of the time above 50 in an uptrend. It doesn't mean it needs to stay above 50 the entire time, because as you can see during this uptrend for Ethereum, when it bounced from $1,500 all the way up here to $2,700. Well, the RSI came back down to 50 several times and even dipped below it a few times. And then on this correction right here, before sending it higher, it dipped all the way down to about 39. But as you can see, the majority of the time during this part of the uptrend right here, we were above 50 for the majority of the time. And so what I would expect right now is for Ethereum to stay above 50 the majority of the time as it continues to break up higher to $5,000 or $6,000. Now, if we zoom in even further from the daily chart, let's just go to the hourly chart. You can see we're in a downtrend right now. And in a downtrend, it's the opposite scenario. We spend the majority of the time below 50. And so we've been below 50 since this downtrend started after the middle of August. You can see we broke this ascending support right here, and we've just been forming lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. And now we're just simply forming another low. And so what we would want to do here to understand when Ethereum could potentially reverse, which would actually be a signal for every single other altcoin in this video that is pulling back as well too, is we want to watch Ethereum's price chart. So this is the most important one to watch actually. And so if we just look at this downtrend right here, it's in a bearish channel, and we're at this descending support right here while the relative strength index sits at 36. So what we want to look for is a potential bullish divergence, which would be a major reversal signal from a downtrend. And so what that is when we form lower lows on the price chart, which I've covered in previous videos. So Ethereum's forming a lower low on the price chart, and we form a higher low on a key indicator like the relative strength index. So if we just connect the low from the 18th of August until roughly the 19th of August today, we can see the relative strength index is making a higher low, whereas the price chart is making a lower low. So this is actually a great sign that a potential reversal is coming, but it doesn't mean that now, in this moment, while I make this video, is the best possible time to buy, but it means that it's coming soon. And so what we need to look for is confirmation on the price chart of a potential reversal here, because just because we're seeing the first sign of a bullish divergence doesn't mean that it's going to reverse from here, because a bullish divergence sometimes can play out like this, where we just continuously form lower lows and we continuously form higher highs or higher lows on the relative strength index before we inevitably bounce to the upside. So what we want to look for is a break of structure, which would be key resistance levels. And so we want to further zoom in to more micro time frames. So let's go from the hour to the 15-minute here. So if we connect the highs right here for Ethereum, since a few hours ago, we can see that Ethereum has broken this descending resistance right here. In terms of a horizontal resistance, this is what I'm looking at right here. We can see two key levels right here. One of them is about 4,165, another is at 4,190. And if we zoom out a little bit further and we connect these highs right here, in my opinion, if Ethereum clears both of these levels right here and we see Ethereum do something like this and push to the upside, I would expect there to be some type of back test. Maybe Ethereum even pulls back down below these levels, and then for us to rally back up into this descending resistance right here in this downtrend. And we typically see stuff like this play out all the time. For example, we see it happen right here. If we go all the way back to the 18th of August, just yesterday, look at what happened right here on the price chart. Well, we wicked all the way down to about 4,200. We rallied up, and then we formed a lower low on the price chart, rallied up and formed another lower low on the price chart. And so on the relative strength index, you can see that the RSI dipped down to about 18. But just because we're in oversold conditions doesn't mean you buy into that right away. You want to wait for a divergence, because the price rallies up, then sells off for a lower low. The RSI bounces up and then comes back down for a higher low. And so, like I talked about like 10 seconds ago, just because we're seeing the lower low on the price chart and a higher low on the RSI doesn't mean that the divergence is done. As we typically see rallies and we see another lower low until we inevitably see a break of structure. And so a break of structure on the price chart would be us breaking a major downtrend, because as you can see, we're in a downtrend right here, just forming lower highs until we broke above this high right here with this massive green candle. And then the price does what it does every single time. It comes back down and then eventually puts in a higher low than the lowest low. And then we start a new uptrend from there. And so the entry point is not necessarily trying to catch the lowest low right here or to catch the first lower low on the price chart in a downtrend when you see a bullish divergence. You want to catch it on the back test. That's what we tend to look for, so you don't get wrecked just in case the price continues further down, because we are still in a downtrend right now. We did break above this descending resistance recently, and we actually did back test it right here on these wicks, but it doesn't mean that the sell-off is over, because Ethereum could easily do something like this to come back down to this support or potentially even lower than that, continuing this divergence. So we want an even stronger reversal signal, which would be clearing of a horizontal resistance. That, in my opinion, would be right here. Because as you can see, if we go all the way back, it was support back since the 9th of August. So because we broke below that, this is a key level to watch for a major reversal right here. If Ethereum, for example, comes into this level and gets rejected from it again, we could easily reverse back to the downside. So watch this red box right here at roughly $4,165. What I would want to see for a major reversal for Ethereum in the altcoin market is for Ethereum to clear this and to hold on top of it for an extended period of time. Because we don't want to see it just push right above it and then come back down like this. That's not a strong reversal right there for Ethereum. We see manipulation pumps like this to liquidate a lot of short traders before inevitably sending the market higher. So what we want to wait for is the breakout and then the back test of this region right here to put in a higher low before the next major move to the upside takes place into these zones right here for Ethereum. So this is what I'm watching.